Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. Not tonight. Not anymore, actually. Those words hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs and turning my legs to water. I stood frozen in our living room, one hand still extended from where I had tried to kiss Leslie's neck, a gesture that once made her smile and lean into me. Now she was pulling away, closing her laptop with a decisive click that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. "What do you mean?" I managed to ask, though I already knew the answer would change everything. Leslie looked at me with an expression so calm it was almost clinical. "Exactly what I said, Gordon. I'm no longer interested in physical intimacy. Not tonight. Not ever again." We had been married for 7 years. Together for 9. I thought I knew this woman. I thought I understood the rhythms of our relationship, the natural ebbs and flows that all couples experience. But nothing in our history had prepared me for this moment. This unilateral declaration delivered with the same tone she might use to discuss grocery preferences. "I don't understand," I said, sitting down heavily on the ottoman across from her. "Is this about something I did? Something I didn't do?" "It's not about you specifically," she replied, straightening the magazines on the coffee table between us. "I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm comfortable with our life together. The house, our finances, our social circle, the stability. But I've moved past needing that part of our relationship. That part, as if physical intimacy, emotional connection, the fundamental bond between partners was just an optional feature, a subscription she had decided to cancel." "You've been thinking about this for a while," I repeated slowly. "How long?" "A few months." Leslie stood up, smoothing her blouse. I wanted to be sure before I said anything. And now I'm sure. A few months. While I had been working late on the cloud migration project, putting in extra hours to position myself for promotion, she had been evaluating our marriage and finding it wanting. Or rather, finding me wanting. "Leslie, people don't just wake up one day and decide their marriage doesn't need intimacy anymore. Did something happen? Are you going through something?" She sighed, the sound carrying a hint of impatience. "Nothing happened. I simply evolved. My needs changed. And I'm being honest with you about it instead of pretending or having an affair. I thought you'd appreciate the honesty." The honesty, as if brutal candor somehow softened the blow of rejection. "What about what I need?" The question came out quieter than I intended. "You're free to want whatever you like," Leslie said, heading toward the kitchen. "But I won't pretend or force myself to maintain a physical relationship I no longer desire. You can accept it or not. That's your choice." I sat there in our living room, in the townhouse we had bought together 3 years ago in Fremont, surrounded by furniture we had picked out as a team, staring at the space where my wife had just been. The rain outside tapped against the windows, typical for January in Seattle. Everything looked the same as it had 20 minutes ago when I had walked through the door. But everything had changed. That night, lying on my side of our bed while Leslie slept soundly beside me, I stared at the ceiling and tried to process what had happened. How had I missed the signs? Or had there been signs at all? I replayed the past few months in my mind. The gradual decrease in physical affection, the way she flinched slightly when I touched her, the increasing frequency of excuses, headaches, exhaustion, stress at work. I had noticed these things, of course, but I had explained them away, told myself they were temporary, that the passion would return once work settled down for both of us. I had been so focused on my career, on securing that promotion to senior product manager, that I had failed to see my marriage crumbling. Or maybe it had not been crumbling at all. Maybe Leslie was right, and she had simply evolved past needing me in that way. The thought made my stomach turn. The next morning, Leslie had already left for work. At my job, I moved through the day in a fog. That evening, I tried talking to her again over takeout. "Can we discuss counseling?" I asked. Leslie's irritation finally showed. "Gordon, I don't need counseling. There's nothing wrong with me. Why is that so difficult for you to accept?" "Because this affects both of us. This is our marriage. I'm not ending our marriage. I'm redefining it. Everything else can stay the same." "Everything else? You mean the parts convenient for you?" We ate in tense silence. This was our new normal. Roommates with a joint mortgage. The following Monday, I scheduled an appointment with a marriage counselor. When I told Leslie that evening, her response was immediate. "I'm not going," she said flatly. "If you need therapy to process this, go alone." So I did. Dr. Patricia Wong was a kind-eyed woman in her 50s who listened without judgment as I recounted our situation in her office that first Wednesday afternoon. "Has your wife experienced any trauma or significant life changes recently?" she asked. "Nothing obvious. Her job is stable. No deaths in the family, no health issues that I know of. Sometimes these decisions stem from unprocessed experiences or psychological changes. Without her here, I can only help you navigate your response to the situation. But that might be exactly what you need right now." I started seeing her weekly. Those sessions became anchors in the weeks ahead, safe spaces to process what was happening without judgment. Saturday morning, I did something I had not done in months. I called my father. Henry Miller was 62, retired from a career in civil engineering, living alone since my mother passed away 5 years ago. We talked every few weeks, usually brief check-ins about health and weather and Seahawks games. We were not the type for deep emotional conversations. But I needed perspective from someone who had been married for 37 years before death separated him from his wife. We met at Bauhaus Books and Coffee on Capitol Hill. My father was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a black coffee and the Saturday newspaper spread before him. "You look like hell," he said by way of greeting. "Thanks, Dad." He folded the paper and studied me. "What's going on?" I told him a version of the situation. Not all the details, not the specific words Leslie had used, but enough for him to understand the basic problem. My wife had unilaterally decided to remove physical intimacy from our marriage and expected me to simply accept it. My father listened without interrupting, his weathered hands wrapped around his coffee cup. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Your mother and I had our share of rough patches," he finally said. "There were years when we barely spoke to each other except about logistics. But we worked through it because we both wanted to. Leslie doesn't want to work through anything. She says there's nothing to work through. She's just evolved past needing that connection." "And you believe that?" The question caught me off guard. I don't know what I believe anymore. Here's what I learned in 37 years of marriage. My father said, leaning forward slightly. "Some things can be fixed, and some things can't. The hard part is knowing which is which. Even harder is knowing when to stop trying to fix something that the other person doesn't think is broken." "So what do I do?" He shook his head slowly. "That's not a question I can answer for you, son. Only you know what you can live with. But I will tell you this. The worst thing you can do is spend years waiting for someone to change their mind when they've told you clearly what they want. At some point, you have to decide what you're going to do about it." I drove home from that conversation and sat in my car outside our townhouse for 20 minutes before I could summon the energy to go inside. What was waiting for me there? Another weekend of polite coexistence. Another Sunday of shared space and separate lives. That's when something shifted in me. Not a dramatic revelation, but a quiet recognition. I could not change Leslie's mind. I could not force her to want me or need me or value our connection. But I could change how I responded to the situation. I could redirect my energy. Monday morning, January 18th, I set my alarm for 5:15. When it went off, Leslie stirred but did not wake. I got up and went to the living room. I had downloaded Headspace the night before. Sitting cross-legged on our floor while rain pattered outside, I pressed play and listened to a British voice guide me through 15 minutes of breathing. My mind kept drifting to Leslie, to her calm face as she dismantled our marriage. But each time, I brought my attention back to my breath. After, I laced up running shoes I had barely worn and drove to Green Lake. I made it maybe half a mile before I had to stop, gasping. I was 34 and completely out of shape. 195 pounds on a 5'10" frame, soft from too many desk hours. I walked, then jogged, then walked more. By the time I completed the loop, an hour had passed, and I was drenched. But I felt present, alive. When I got home, Leslie was making coffee. "You're up early," she said. "Making some changes." "Okay," she replied, not looking up. That Wednesday, I joined the Bellevue Club. It was expensive, but I figured if I was going to redirect my energy toward myself, I should do it properly. During the orientation, I met Derek Chamberlain, a personal trainer who looked like he was carved from granite. "What are your goals?" Derek asked, clipboard in hand. "I want to get stronger," I said. "I want to feel better. I want to look like I have my life together." Derek raised an eyebrow. "That last one's pretty specific. You going through something?" "You could say that." "Well, you've got decent frame," he said, circling me appraisingly. "Just need to build on it." When can you train? Early mornings. Before work. 5:30 tomorrow? I nodded. The first workout was humbling. Derek had me bench press just the bar to assess my form, then added 45-pound plates. I struggled through 5 reps of 95 pounds total. For deadlifts, I managed 135 pounds. For squats, barely 100. Everyone starts somewhere, Derek said as I sat on a bench afterward, muscles quivering. The only thing that matters is consistency. You show up, put in the work, you'll see results. But if you're looking for a quick fix, I can't help you. I'm not looking for quick, I told him. I'm looking for permanent. Over the next 2 weeks, I established a routine so rigid it became automatic. Alarm at 5:15. Meditation for 15 minutes. Gym by 5:45. Workout until 7. Shower, dress, breakfast smoothie at my desk by 8:30. The mornings became sacred time, hours that belonged entirely to me. At home, I stopped trying to initiate conversations with Leslie beyond basic logistics. Who was picking up groceries? When the landscaper was coming? Whether we needed to call the plumber about the master bathroom sink? Our interactions became transactional, a business partnership maintaining a shared property. Leslie seemed almost relieved by my withdrawal. The tension that had existed in those first few days after her declaration evaporated. We settled into our new roles easily, too easily. Polite strangers sharing an address. At work, something interesting happened. Without the constant background anxiety about my marriage, I found I could focus with a clarity I had not experienced in months. The cloud migration project that had been dragging entered its critical phase in early February, and I volunteered to lead the client presentation. The old Gordon would have avoided that spotlight, but the new Gordon, the one who woke before dawn to meditate and lift weights, stepped up. The presentation went exceptionally well. Afterward, Brian pulled me aside in the hallway. That was impressive, he said. Whatever you're doing lately, keep it up. You're really stepping up your game. By the end of February, I had lost 11 pounds. My clothes were fitting differently, looser around the waist, tighter in the shoulders. Derek increased my weights each week. The bench press that had nearly defeated me in January became easy. I was pressing 135 pounds, those 45-pound plates on each side, for multiple sets. On a Saturday morning in early March, I went to Pike Place Market to buy fresh coffee beans. Walking through the crowds, I passed a photographer crouched low to capture a flower vendor's display in the early morning light. Something about the intentionality of it, the focus, caught my attention. On impulse, I stopped at Camera Exchange in Georgetown on my way home and bought a used Canon EOS Rebel. It was not expensive, just a basic DSLR that the clerk said was perfect for beginners. Sunday morning, I drove to Discovery Park and spent 2 hours walking the trails, learning how the camera worked, taking shots of the Puget Sound stretching out toward the Olympics, of trees backlit by weak March sunshine, of the West Point Lighthouse standing stark against gray sky. When I got home and uploaded the photos to my laptop, I was surprised by what I saw. They were not great, technically speaking, but a few of them had something. A quality of light, a composition that felt balanced. I created an Instagram account and posted the 3 best shots. Leslie scrolled past them on her own feed without comment. The next week, Derek introduced me to the concept of macros and meal planning. I spent Sunday afternoon prepping chicken breast, brown rice, roasted vegetables, portioning everything into containers for the week ahead. Leslie came into the kitchen while I was labeling the containers. "Are you on some kind of diet?" she asked. "Just eating better. More protein, better balance." "Okay," she said, and that was the end of the conversation. But I noticed her looking at the containers in the refrigerator over the next few days, noticing the precision of my portions, the discipline of my routine. In mid-March, my project launched successfully. The client sent a glowing email to Brian, copied to senior leadership. 3 days later, Brian called me into his office. "We're promoting you to senior product manager," he said without preamble. "Your performance these past few months has been exemplary. The position comes with a salary increase to $168,000, and you'll be leading the team on our next major initiative." I accepted immediately, feeling a surge of validation that had nothing to do with Leslie's approval or lack thereof. That evening, I told her about the promotion over dinner. "That's great," she said, looking up from her salad. "Congratulations." "Thanks. It'll mean some longer hours during the transition." "Your career is important," Leslie replied, and I could not tell if there was an edge to her voice or if I was imagining it. By early April, I had lost 18 pounds. At 177, I was the lightest I had been since college. But it was not just the weight. My posture had changed. My shoulders were broader. I could see muscle definition in my arms, the beginning of abs. I bought new clothes. Not a whole wardrobe, but key pieces. Fitted jeans that actually fit my new shape. A few well-cut Henley shirts. A casual blazer for work. When I wore one of the new shirts to a team lunch at the Pink Door, Jennifer Kim from marketing did a double take. "Gordon, you look amazing," she said. "What's your secret?" "Just consistency," I told her. "Early mornings at the gym, eating better. Nothing revolutionary." Leslie was home when I got back from work that day. She was in the living room, and I saw her eyes track over my new shirt, the way it fit my changing body. "New clothes?" she asked. "Yeah, the old ones didn't fit anymore." She nodded slowly, and for the first time, I saw something in her expression that might have been concern. In late April, Derek suggested I sign up for the Emerald City 10K in May. "You're running what, for miles easily now?" he asked after a workout. "Push it a bit further. You could do 6.2 no problem." Good goal to work toward. I registered that afternoon. Target time, under 50 minutes. On a Saturday in late April, I joined a group photo shoot organized through an Instagram photography community I had discovered. 6 of us met at the Olympic Sculpture Park at dawn to capture the sculptures in early morning light. One of the other photographers was a woman about my age, setting up a tripod near the eagle. We started talking about cameras and composition, discovered we both worked in tech. Her name was Claire Bishop. "You've got a really good eye for light," she said, looking at some shots on my camera's display. "Natural talent." We exchanged Instagram handles before leaving. It was a pleasant, completely platonic interaction. But something about the ease of the conversation, the genuine interest she showed in my photography, reminded me of what had been missing from my interactions with Leslie. Simple engagement. Curiosity about each other's lives. The following week, when Claire started as the new UX designer on my team at work, we were both surprised. "Small world," she said when she saw me in the first team meeting. "Very small," I agreed. We grabbed coffee after work once to discuss the project she would be contributing to. The conversation flowed easily from work to photography to running. She mentioned she had been thinking about taking up running herself. "Start slow, build gradually," I advised. "It's all about consistency." That evening, Leslie was scrolling through Instagram when I got home. "Is that the new designer on your team?" she asked, showing me her phone. Claire had tagged me in a photo from the morning's team meeting. "Yeah, Claire. She does photography too. Small world." "She's pretty," Leslie observed, her tone carefully neutral. "I guess. I haven't really thought about it. She's good at her job." But Leslie's expression had shifted into something I had not seen before. Not quite jealousy, but close. Concern, maybe. Awareness that my life had expanded beyond the boundaries of our home. The following Friday, I met my old college friend Philip for beers at Optimism Brewing Company. We had not seen each other in over a year, both busy with work and life. "Man, you look different," Philip said when I walked up to the bar. "You lose weight. About 25 pounds. It's not just that. You seem, I don't know, focused, clear-headed." I gave him a brief version of what was happening with Leslie. Not all the details, but enough for him to understand the landscape. "That's rough," he said. "But whatever you're doing to handle it, it's working. You seem like you've got your shit together." On May 16th, I ran the Emerald City 10K. The weather was perfect, mid-50s and cloudy. Derek met me at the starting line to wish me luck, then positioned himself near the finish to watch me come in. I crossed at 47 minutes and 32 seconds. Under my goal. As I bent over, hands on knees, catching my breath, I felt a surge of accomplishment that was purely mine. No one had given this to me. I had earned it through early mornings and discipline and pushing through discomfort. Derek took a photo of me with my race bib and medal. I posted it to Instagram later that afternoon. The congratulations came quickly. Friends, photography acquaintances, Derek, colleagues from work. Claire's comment appeared among them. "Congrats. That's an amazing time for your first 10K. The following week at work, our team went to lunch at Lacosho to celebrate a successful project milestone. Claire ended up sitting next to me. "So running and photography," she said. "What got you into both?" "Just needed outlets," I told her. "Ways to stay present, I guess." "Well, it's working. You always seem very present at work." very focused. Thomas Reed, the other product manager, laughed from across the table. Gordon's the poster child for consistency. Look at the guy. Total transformation. The comments were meant as compliments, and I took them that way. But I noticed Claire studying me with a slightly different expression. Not romantic interest, exactly. More like recognition. Like she saw something in my journey that resonated with her own. That evening, Leslie was already home when I arrived, which was unusual. She worked until 6 most days. Can we talk? She asked as soon as I walked in. Really talk? I set down my bag. Sure. We sat in the living room, in the same positions we had occupied 4 months earlier when she had first made her declaration. I've been thinking about what I said in January. Leslie began, her hands folded in her lap. Maybe I was too hasty. Maybe we should try counseling after all. I waited, letting the silence stretch. What changed your mind? I finally asked. You've changed, she said, meeting my eyes. You're different, and I think maybe I was wrong. About what specifically? She hesitated. About us not needing that connection. About thinking everything else was enough. What brought this realization? Leslie's calm facade cracked slightly. Watching you not need me anymore. There it was. The truth underneath her change of heart. Not that she had genuinely evolved in her thinking about intimacy or connection, but that my transformation, my independence, my obvious thriving without her approval had triggered a response. I see, I said quietly. I want to try, Leslie pressed. I want to go to counseling together. I want to work on us. I looked at my wife, this woman I had been with for 9 years, married to for 7. I still loved her in some way. But the man she had rejected in January, the one who had sat in this same spot devastated and confused, no longer existed. And I was not sure the person I had become could simply go back. I need to think about it, I told her. Over the next week, Leslie tried multiple times to engage me more deeply. She cooked dinner one night, something she had not done in months. She suggested we watch a movie together. She asked detailed questions about my day, my work, my running. I was polite but distant. Not cruel, just boundaried. I had built a life that functioned without her emotional participation, and I was not ready to simply dismantle it because she had decided she wanted back in. At my therapy session with Dr. Patricia Wong, I talked through Leslie's sudden interest in reconciliation. How do you feel about her change of heart? Dr. Wong asked. Suspicious, I admitted. It feels reactive to my transformation, not a genuine evolution in her thinking. That's a fair observation. What do you want, Gordon? I sat with the question. I don't know anymore. The man she rejected 4 months ago doesn't exist. I'm not sure we're compatible now. And if you're not, then maybe it's time to acknowledge that. At work, Claire and I ended up collaborating closely on a major project. One late evening, we ordered food to the office to keep working. Over noodles and curry, the conversation drifted from work into more personal territory. Can I ask you something? Claire said. You seem very self-contained, very clear about who you are. Was that always true? No, I said. It's pretty recent, actually. What changed? I considered how much to share. I went through some personal challenges. Decided to focus on what I could control rather than what I couldn't. Claire nodded. I get that. I went through a breakup about 6 months ago. Thought I'd be devastated, but I'm actually thriving. Growth through adversity, I said. It's real. You sound like you've experienced it. Currently living it. We held each other's gaze for a moment, a flash of mutual understanding passing between us. Then Claire smiled and changed the subject back to work, and we spent the next 2 hours finalizing our presentation deck. When I got home that night, Leslie was waiting in the living room. I saw your Instagram story, she said. The photo Claire had taken at the office and tagged me in, both of us smiling over our laptops. Okay, I said slowly. Are you having an affair with Claire? The question genuinely surprised me. No, absolutely not. But you spend time with her. We work together. Sometimes we work late. That's all. She looks at you like she admires you, Leslie said, and her voice had an edge I had not heard before. She respects my work. That's professional. And you don't feel anything for her? I chose my words carefully. I appreciate her as a colleague and a fellow creative person. But I'm not having an affair. My marriage vows matter to me. But you're not denying you could have feelings. I'm denying I'm acting on anything inappropriate, I said firmly. Leslie, I haven't betrayed you. But you need to understand something. You let me go in January. You made a unilateral decision about our relationship. I'm just adapting to that reality. Tears started running down Leslie's face, the first time I had seen her cry since this all began. I'm losing you. I felt a pang of sympathy, but not enough to change my position. You let me go, I repeated gently. I'm just adapting to that reality. In early June, a gallery owner named Carolyn contacted me through Instagram. She was curating a show called Emerging Seattle Photographers and wanted to include 3 of my landscape pieces. The opening reception would be June 12th. When I told Leslie about it, her reaction was complex. Wow, she said. That's actually a big deal. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'd like to come to the opening, she said carefully. I was genuinely surprised. Sure, if you want. We should celebrate your promotion too, Leslie added. I never took you out or anything. That's okay. I celebrated with the team at work. She looked hurt, but did not push. Over the next week, Leslie's efforts to reconnect intensified, but each attempt met my polite distance. I was not being cruel. I was simply protecting the boundaries I had established, the life I had built. Friday evening, June 12th, we drove separately to the gallery opening in Pioneer Square. Leslie had dressed up, made an obvious effort with her appearance. I wore dark jeans and a blazer, the uniform of Seattle's creative class. The gallery was small but well curated. My 3 landscape pieces, all from the North Cascades, hung on the north wall with small printed cards showing the title and price. To my surprise, 2 had red dots beside them by the end of the first hour. Sold. Carolyn introduced me to several people, collectors, and other photographers. The conversations felt validating in a way I had not expected. These people did not know me as Gordon the husband or Gordon the product manager. They knew me only as Gordon the photographer, valued solely for my creative vision. Claire arrived about an hour into the reception. I had mentioned the opening during a work conversation. Not quite an invitation, but not an invitation either. Gordon, these are incredible, she said, standing in front of my print of Diablo Lake at sunset. Such emotional depth in the composition. Thanks. It means a lot coming from you. Leslie appeared beside us then. I made introductions. You must be very proud, Claire said to Leslie with genuine warmth. Yes, Leslie said, her voice tight. He's very talented. There was an awkward moment. Then Claire excused herself politely to look at other pieces in the show. After the gallery closed, Leslie and I walked to my car in silence. Finally, she spoke. She's clearly interested in you. She appreciates my work. It's more than that, Gordon. I can see it. I stopped walking and turned to face her. Even if it were, I haven't acted on anything. But Leslie, you need to understand something. I'm not the same person you rejected in January. That person was desperate for your approval, for your desire. This person isn't. I know, she said quietly. I see that, and it terrifies me. Why? Because I threw away something precious, and by the time I realized it, you'd already moved on. I haven't moved on to someone else, I corrected. I've moved forward with myself. There's a difference. Is there? Leslie asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Yes, a crucial one. Saturday evening, I suggested we needed to make a decision. About what? Leslie asked, though I could see in her eyes that she knew. About us. About our marriage. About whether we're actually partners or just people sharing expenses. I want to be partners, she said quickly. I want to fix this. I think we should separate for a while. The words seemed to hit her physically. What? No. I thought we were talking about fixing things. We are. But we can't fix something when we're not even clear what we want individually. You made a decision in January without considering my needs. Now I'm making a decision that considers both of ours. That's not the same thing, Leslie protested. Isn't it? You decided unilaterally to change our marriage. I'm deciding unilaterally that we need space to figure out if there's a marriage worth saving. Of course there is, she said, desperation creeping into her voice. Gordon, I love you. Do you? Or do you love the version of me that's successful and fit and fulfilled? Because that version exists because I stopped waiting for you to value me. Leslie opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She had no response to that. I'll move out this week, I said. Give us both time to think clearly. I found a furnished 1-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, 6th floor with a view of the city. Moving day was the following Saturday. Leslie helped me pack, her movements mechanical, her face carefully blank. How long will you be gone? she asked as I loaded the last box into my car. We didn't set a time frame, as long as needed for clarity. Are you planning to divorce me? I looked at her, this woman I had built a life with, and felt a complicated mix of love and distance. I'm planning to figure out who I am independently and what I actually want. Where that leads, I don't know yet. The first night in my new apartment, I sat on the balcony with a beer and watched the sun set over Elliott Bay. The sky turned orange and purple, and I felt a strange mix of grief and relief. Grief for what had been lost. Relief at finally having space to breathe. I did not miss Leslie exactly. I missed the idea of partnership, the comfort of shared life. But I did not miss the reality of living with someone who had made me feel unwanted. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. How's the new place? Good. Quiet. Exactly what I need. Over the next 2 weeks, I established a new rhythm. Morning runs along Lake Washington Boulevard. Evening photography sessions at different locations around the city. Work continued to go well. I sold one more print from the gallery show and another from my Instagram portfolio for $800 each. Leslie texted after 10 days. Can we meet for coffee? I agreed. We chose Victrola Coffee on 15th, neutral territory. Saturday morning, both of us arriving exactly on time, both visibly nervous. You look good, Leslie said, sitting down with her latte. Happy even. I'm finding my footing. I've started seeing Dr. Wong too. Individual sessions. That surprised me. That's good. What are you learning? Leslie took a breath. That I tied my self-worth to control. When I started feeling like I was aging, losing attractiveness, I panicked. Shutting down intimacy felt like protecting myself from vulnerability, from the possibility that you'd eventually leave me for someone younger. The honesty was startling. I would never have done that. I know. Rationally, I know that. But the fear wasn't rational. And instead of talking to you about it, I made a unilateral decision that hurt you deeply. Yes, I said simply. It did. I'm sorry, Gordon. Truly sorry. Not just sorry for the consequences, but sorry for how I did it. Like you didn't matter. Like your needs were irrelevant. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup. I appreciate you saying that. Is there any chance for us? The question came out small, vulnerable. I don't know, I answered honestly. The person you want back, the devoted husband waiting for your approval, he doesn't exist anymore. That person was killed by your rejection. What's left is someone who values himself regardless of whether you desire him. I don't want him back, Leslie said. I want this version of you, the strong, independent one. But don't you see the problem? This version became strong by not needing you. That's the paradox we're facing. Leslie's eyes filled with tears. So we're doomed. I didn't say that. I said I don't know. I need more time to figure out what I actually want, separate from fear or guilt or history. We talked for 2 hours. The most honest conversation we had had in over a year, maybe longer. She told me about her therapy, about unpacking her anxieties around aging and control. I told her about my journey, about discovering that self-worth had to come from within, not from someone else's validation. When we finally stood to leave, there was no hug, no kiss, just a mutual understanding that we were both doing necessary work. Can we do this again? Leslie asked. Keep talking. Yes, but I need the separation to continue through summer. I need that space. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay. We agreed to meet for coffee every other week, to check in, to update each other on our individual progress. But we also agreed, no dating other people during this time. Whatever we decided about our marriage, it would not be complicated by external relationships. At my next therapy session, Dr. Wong asked what I wanted from my marriage. Authentic partnership, I said. Mutual respect. Someone who chooses me when I'm ordinary, not just when I'm exceptional. Because life isn't always exceptional. Sometimes it's just Tuesday evening and you're tired and you haven't shaved and your body is average. And I need to know I'm valued in those moments too. Do you think Leslie can be that person? I think she wants to be. Whether she actually is, whether we can rebuild after what happened, I need more time to see. Maybe we can. Maybe what needed to break was my dependence on her validation. Maybe now we can build something healthier. And if you can't, then I'll know I tried everything. And I'll move forward knowing I didn't fail the marriage. The marriage failed us both. On the last Tuesday of June, I sat on my apartment balcony as the sun set over Elliott Bay. My phone buzzed with a notification. Claire had liked my latest Instagram post, a sunset shot from this exact spot. I smiled but did not read anything into it. Claire was a friend, a colleague, someone who appreciated the same creative pursuits I did. Nothing more, nothing less. Another buzz. A text from Leslie. Thinking of you. Hope you're well. I typed back. I am. Hope you are too. I set the phone down and picked up my camera. The light was perfect, that golden hour glow that photographers chase. I took several shots, adjusting the aperture, playing with the exposure. 6 months ago, my worth had been defined by someone else's desire for me. I had been lost when that desire evaporated, convinced that I was fundamentally lacking. Now I understood that worth could not be borrowed or granted. It had to be built from the inside out, through discipline and growth, and the daily choice to value yourself regardless of external validation. Whether my marriage survived or not, I had already won something more important. I had found myself. Not the self I thought I should be, not the self Leslie wanted or needed, but the authentic version that existed underneath all the performance and fear. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, and for the first time in months, I was not taking pictures to share with anyone. I was simply experiencing the moment, being present in my own life. Whatever happened with Leslie, whether we found our way back to each other or continued on separate paths, I would face it as someone who knew his own worth. Someone who had learned that the most important relationship you can build is the one with yourself. And that made all the difference. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.